Please welcome Diana Damron to the stage.
Depression now ranks as the second leading cause of disability in the world. In the United States, our businesses are losing hundreds of billions of dollars, and yes, that is with a B, hundreds of billions of dollars each and every year because of the way we treat each other in the workplace. And as you and I become more and more dependent on technology, we're becoming less trusting and less connected with one another. Now, I know I've started off with a lot of negativity here, but here's the good news. Together, you and I can turn so much of this around as long as we use a force you may not have expected. Imagine a force that has the power to fight that depression, to build bridges in the workplace, and that can actually generate connections built on trust. Now, that force is free for the taking, as long as you and I are willing to take the steps, make the moves to keep it going, because you and I give it life, or we guarantee its demise. Now, the force I'm referring to is civility. And I can't see very well right now, but I'm assuming there are a few of you in here who are rolling your eyes at just the idea of civility, because it's gotten such a bad rap over the years. It wasn't that many decades ago when we redefined civility as a bunch of needless rules for the placement of forks, knives, and spoons. We just took civility and we just tossed it out on its ear. Now, if I even say the word civility, eyes begin to glaze over. I get that deer in the headlights look. Or someone smirks and says, "Civility? You're kidding, right?" No, I'm not kidding. And I think that this is the perfect opportunity for us to have a conversation about this word, civility. If I say civility, what comes to mind? What do you think of? Even those of you who might have been rolling your eyes, please play along with this. Do you, in fact, think it is a list of rigid rules, do's and don'ts? Do you think it means actually looking at your friends when they speak to you as opposed to your phone? How about formalities? Are we worried the civility really means you have to be formal all the time? How about showing up on time? Does the word respect come to mind? I define civility as the consistent implementation of respect. And it is that consistent piece of that definition that is so difficult for us to achieve, especially when we are not on the same page. The fact is, civility is all about how you and I treat one another, with or without respect. And civility is crucial because how you and I treat each other, in other words, our behavior, has an impact on us and on our lives, positive or negative. It is seldom neutral. If you and I have an interaction, whether it's a conversation or a confrontation, whether it's in person or online, we're left in a different emotional place than before that interaction. And now our behavior, it has a geometric reach as we increasingly take to social networks, especially when we're angry or under anonymity. Civility is all about respect. Respect for the other guy, whether or not you agree or not. Whether or not that person's easy to get along with, or whether or not that person is in front of you or online. I never said civility was easy. If civility was easy, our businesses here in the United States would not be losing between $300 and $360 billion year in and year out because of workplace incivility. But here's what happens. If you and I don't focus on civility, we open the doors to incivility. And here's what else shows up. Fear, anger, gossip, bullying, the undermining of trust, drama, a downward spiral in productivity, an upward spike in sick days, attitudes heading south, and turnover. Lots and lots of turnover. Incivility has huge costs, both emotional and financial. Let me explain it this way. When you and I, in the workplace, allow individuals or their ideas to be belittled, not only the person is affected, but the business takes a hit. Some of you may be able to relate to this. If you've ever been treated with disrespect in the workplace, especially on a regular basis, and then you find you're having a hard time concentrating and focusing, you're not going crazy. Research shows that we literally remember less when we are targets in a toxic environment, 20% less when it comes to our short-term memories, and we are 30% less creative. If you and I just watch an angry exchange, we don't have to have that angry exchange. If we just watch it, we're affected. Emotionally, we're affected. Our work is affected. We begin to wonder, are we next? Well, that second guessing of oneself, that erosion of self-confidence, those feelings, they don't stay in the businesses at the end of the day behind closed doors. No. They seep out, and they grab hold, and they accompany us into our homes and into our relationships, and from there they spread. We know emotions and behavior are contagious. We also know depression is soaring. Researchers tell us that the rate of depression is 4 times what it was 1 generation ago. It is 10 times what it was 2 generations ago. And I don't know about you, but when I hear these statistics, I wonder, what are we missing? We're missing the fact that you and I have a tremendous impact on one another. Now, let me give you an example. You're not going to be moved to tears. This is not an emotional example, probably, but a lot of you might be able to relate to this. This happened not long after my husband and I were first married. To say I used to be late would be a gross understatement. I mean, I was late to everything. I was always a little bit late to work. I was always really late to social occasions. And so, if you had been in the car with my husband and me, if we were heading over to Friends for dinner, this is what you would have seen. My husband gripping the wheel, all white knuckles, driving to make up for the time that I had lost. I, on the other hand, would be in the passenger seat, sickeningly sweet and apologizing for being late. Now, until this particular night, my husband had let me off the hook. He said, it's okay. But this night, when I apologized, he didn't say a word. I assumed he didn't hear me. So, from the passenger seat, I just cranked up the volume. I'm so sorry I'm late. Mr. Punctuality's silence ended. No, you're not. If you were sorry, you wouldn't be late. Obviously, you think that your time is more important than anyone else's. That's not what I thought. But the fact is, it didn't matter what I thought. Everyone was having to work around me. Dinners were cold, hosts were frustrated, and I had a really angry driver behind the wheel because of my incivility, my lack of respect for other people's time, which they interpreted to mean my lack of respect for them. Heck, if I was in a wedding as a bridesmaid at that point, I'm not kidding, the brides always lied to me. They always told me that the rehearsals and the rehearsal dinners started at least 1 hour before they were truly scheduled. You see, my behavior had undermined their trust in me. You and I work so hard to generate trust, and then we turn right around and we treat those same people, whether it's a personal or a professional relationship, we treat those same people in a way that just erodes that trust. Now, I told you this was not an emotional example, unless you were the person waiting for me. Oh, those people felt a lot of emotions, none of which were good. They were frustrated. They were angry. Sometimes they were a little worried, but I think they were all stressed out, trying to figure out whether or not they had to rearrange everything because of me. How you and I treat one another, with civility or without, has huge ramifications, especially in our increasingly me-centric society, in which I'm focused on my happiness. If you disagree with me, you have a different opinion, you assert what you want, oh, I am so quick to take offense. But I'm always primed to click and post my latest, greatest selfie. In a society in which we increasingly focus on ourselves, we take less time. We make less of an effort to focus on others. The polite, the thoughtful, the courteous. Those become the casualties. The crude, the crass, the cranky, those become the norm, and they provide fertile breeding ground for the growth of disrespect, isolation, and bullying. Oh, we develop connections, but when those connections are not grounded on civility, it's not long before we are texting rather than talking. And for them, we then begin to recede, disengage, and disconnect, depriving you and me of exactly what we need most. We're hardwired to be social, but not in the hit and run approach of social media. We are meant to make connections that promote and protect and nurture. And there's a language to that type of connection, and that language is civility. Now, let me be very clear. When I talk about this language of connection, civility, I don't mean we all have to be sickeningly sweet. Everybody has to agree, and we become doormats for one another. Not at all. Ugh. But I am saying, if you and I are part of a culture in which we are losing hundreds of billions of dollars in the workplace, if you and I are standing by as those around us are riddled by depression, then you and I are, in fact, enabling a toxic environment, and you and I have a decision to make, to engage regularly with or without civility. You and I are heading outside. You get to the door before I do, and you open it for me. I just prance right on through. I don't thank you, I don't look at you, I don't say boo. Now your brain is saying, connect with me, connect with me. And my behavior is saying, honey, you are not worth the connection. I'm not even aware of your courtesy. I'm not even aware of you as a human being, and don't look at me that way. I have excuses. I'm in a hurry. Can you not see that my head is buried in this phone? As technology continues to breed more and more disconnection, every opportunity that we miss to extend respect to another human being is to make a choice not to connect. While I liken civility to a language, I liken interacting with civility to a dance. Last spring, much to my husband's horror, I signed the two of us up for salsa dancing lessons. I know what you're wondering. It is the same husband. I need to warn you also, or explain, that any dance partner of mine risks life and limb. I am almost 6 feet tall in my bare feet. I'm also extraordinarily klutzy. You add these shoes, and I just become a dangerous weapon. But my husband is, he's a great sport. So we went to these classes, and here's what I learned. And I'm sure everybody else knows this. I'm kind of late to the party sometimes. But I learned that if my husband stepped forward, I took a step back. If he took a step back, I took a step forward. And it all worked really well, and it was really fun as long as I was paying attention. But one night we went to the class and I was just focused on me, not aware of the music, not aware of what was going on around us, not even focused on my husband. And when he was supposed to, in our dance, he stepped forward. I hadn't moved. And it was not a pretty sight. But as I picked myself up off the ground, I realized that civility and dancing actually have three things in common. With both, you have to pivot. With both, you have to move with the rhythm. And with both, you have to keep smiling. In dancing, we pivot on the balls of our feet. But when we connect with civility, we pivot our focus. We begin to open it up from just centering on ourselves, but to open it up to others, to become more aware of others, which is our first step to connecting. In music, the music is the rhythm that we move with in dancing. And when we connect with civility, we move with the rhythm of appreciation. William James, the father of American psychology, said that the deepest principle of a human being is the craving to be appreciated. Not that we want to be appreciated, we hope to be appreciated, but that we crave appreciation. I think our parents and our teachers understood that when they taught us those magic words of please and thank you. Remember when I started off, I said we have to take the steps. Well, that thank you was our first baby step to learn appreciation. Please, thank you, our first steps to connect. And finally, keep smiling. I don't know about you, I make a lot of mistakes. Anybody else in here can relate to that? Then you might like this quote. It comes from the English writer G.K. Chesterton, who said, "Angels can fly because they take themselves so lightly." Oh boy, we don't. We are so hard on ourselves. If we make a mistake, we beat ourselves up. Somebody else makes a mistake, we're even harder on them. It is time for us to lighten up, to actually make a new choice, the choice not to be offended, and to keep smiling. If you're willing to come aboard in this dance of civility, I guarantee you right now, I'm going to step on your toes. I will miss a beat. And sometimes in our connection, I may hurt you without ever having any intention of doing so. But please remember, I don't know your heart. I can't read your mind. I don't have a clue what you have experienced. There will be times I move way too fast, and other times when I move way too slowly. I'll be out of sync, and sometimes just stuck. But if you're willing, I promise that if you step on my toes, I won't take offense, but I'll look back at you and say, let's keep at it, this dance of civility. It means our becoming more aware of one another, appreciating one another, and yeah, wincing sometimes, but not whining each and every time we step on one another's toes. I invite you to join me on this dance floor called life, and to embrace one another with the force of civility. Thank you.
Awesome work.
Thanks.